Hi guys, welcome back to another daily tarot card. These are your daily tarot cards for Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. Today we're pulling from the Enchanted Forest tarot cards. So I'm trying to block out this card. There we go. So we have the Ace of Vision. So with the Ace of Vision, this is how we see ourselves. Let me just block that out again. So you see the swan, and then she sees her reflection, or they see their reflection. She has a tiara on. She has a gorgeous necklace on. You know what I mean? So I feel like vision board. We've definitely been hitting on this a little bit for the past couple weeks, and it's like getting ready to do our vision board or getting our ideas ready. I usually get like photos and what do you call it? Photos and words and that mean something to me. They resonate. So I feel like in that way, it's just like how I see myself. How I see myself maybe in the next 5 years, 10 years. It may not happen in the timeline you want, but it will happen. With determination and dedication, you will be the victor wearing the wreath. We saw that with the Six of Wands yesterday. We have the oldest one. So this is a major message because we have the owl. Let me just see if I can get my finger in here. The owl right here. So with this owl, this major message coming through, I feel like ancient wisdom. They talk about our ancestors. With myself, it's just like, I feel like that's why we would get like Ancestry.com. It's just like, with myself, it's my great grandmother, Justine, where, I remember seeing a photo on the heritage page of our family, and it was just like she had this picture of Mother Mary and Jesus behind her front door, or her back door, side door, whatever it was that door was. But it was just like they're all hanging out in the kitchen. There was a door there, and I could see this picture, and I'm like, that's where I get it from. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I get like this, I feel, I don't worship statues, I just feel like it's a symbolism of peace. I feel like it's a symbolism of faith. I feel like, you know what I mean? For anyone that has, you know what I mean? It's nothing we worship. It's just something that symbolizes peace in our life, the spirituality. We want to have that peace and and sanctuary in our home. You know what I mean? The one thing they were showing about Erica Jane, love her or hate her, she was showing the ladies her house a couple of seasons ago when she was with her husband. I guess this is when she first came on, or when she first showed off her house. And she had her own chapel. And I was like, that is something I would definitely put in my home. You know what I mean? Like that kind of place that you could go to, and it's like that's where like my menorah would be and all that stuff. And it's like, but I use my living room. It's like, that's why I always tell people, it's like, you don't have to worry about going to church. It's not about a building. It's a lifestyle. It's your spirituality. It's how you conduct yourself in everyday life. Your spirituality should not end because it's not Sunday and you're not in church. Oh, I'm going to take this mask off and I can be the devil that I am, because I'm not on holy soil. I tell you, if you do not believe in anything, you still face the same thing as we all do. They judge our heart. They judge our soul. When we say our heart, they judge our soul, who we are. Are we a good, decent person? Did we try to do the best we could while we were here? You know what I mean? So, did we make conscious choices to hurt others? I feel like that's where ancient wisdom comes from. Then I feel like that's where the ancient one is like, even though you don't feel like you fit into your family, it's like there's people in our lineage that, it makes sense. They're like, talking about the sacrifices of our ancestors to propel us forward that we don't even acknowledge or we don't even know. You know what I mean? So I feel like in that way. I feel like with this night it's the challenge, the 10 of challenges. You know what I mean? I feel like some people may see that as the 10 of swords, but it's not. In this case, I feel like this is like, tedious. I feel like some of us are feeling like it's like things are getting tedious. So it's just like one after another, after another. I was telling you like yesterday, I was like, personal, family, work. Like there's like this and this and this. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. There's nothing crazy, nothing I cannot handle. And that's what I tell myself. It's just like, they were sharing me some tidbits yesterday, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Thank you for that, But it's just like reassurance. Spirit had told me that. And I feel like the 10 of Knights, or the 10 of Challenges, in this case, is maybe this is like someone that you feel like you should be with. You know what I mean? So I feel like they're saying not up to snuff. I feel like it's not who you thought they were. So you build up this fantasy in your head of who they are and what you think they would be, and it's like you have no idea. So it's like, you know, maybe it's time for you to move on. Maybe this is spirit encouraging you to move on. I feel like in some cases where it's like life it gets tedious. It's just like, what they call it, void of course. Deborah Silverman, astrology answers calls it void of course, where you get up and repeat. But it's all about how we face a day. I try to sit there and make that habit that, when I see the sun coming up, oh, good morning, Lord. Thank you for another blessed day. I could see the sun dancing between the leaves, like, not anymore because like everything has fallen, but it's just like, that spring kind of image. And I always leave like my window unblocked because we have tint on our windows to block out the summer heat. But it's just like, to sit there and see, like, we have this huge pine tree in the backyard, and it's just like to see the blue jays and the crows and all that stuff. And sometimes we're lucky to see eagles, falcons, hawks. Like, we're very lucky that we get to see all that. If we're lucky, we get to see deer. But I feel like, spirit is just like, in this case, it's just like something we need to give up. You know what I mean? I feel like, this is going to sound weird, unless you've experienced a major, and I was saying this yesterday, a major reboot in your life, where it's like, it's like this crash happened in your life and now you're trying to reboot it. And it's like, sometimes it takes, you know what I mean? It's like, I was watching Young Sheldon, they were showing the sounds of the old dial-up internet, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I remember that, waiting for that. And I'm like, thank God I don't have to listen to that anymore. He's like, oh, gosh, I miss that sound. I'm like, yeah, until you do it for the 10th time, and you're just like, ugh, right? But I feel like in that way, where it's just like, appreciate the void of course, appreciate the boredom. You know what I mean? That you are stable enough in your life to be bored. You know what I mean? In that moment, stable enough to be like, if I'm bored, I'm going to go take a nap. I'm feeling kind of tired. I'm feeling kind of, like I could take a nap. You know what I mean? Because it's just like someone that was, so freaking nerves were shot. You couldn't even sleep. I was sleeping like 4 hours a night if I was lucky. You know what I mean? And that really took a toll on my mental health. And it was just like, I got to a point where security, structure, peace, discipline, you know what I mean? It's just certain things came into my life, and it's just like, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's what this 10 of challenges is. You know what I mean? I feel like he's worn out. I feel like he's tired. You know what I mean? And I feel like, maybe sometimes we all want multiple story houses. Now that my knees are acting out the way that they are, it's just like, I don't even know if I want a multiple story. Like, I'm totally fine with a bungalow. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, like, my knees are just freaking killing me. It's just, I know it's the colder weather. I know we had a lot of rain, so hopefully it'll, go. But it's just like, I'm proactive. I'm like, okay, how do I resolve this situation? You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't stop until I solve it. So it's just like trying to figure out ways and things to do that can change that. You know what I mean? So I always had a physical job. So now it's just like, this is just so weird, So it's just like finding things to do, what works and what doesn't, you know what I mean? So I feel like in that sense with the 10 of challenges, it's just like, I feel like, coming to the realization, like we were watching Squid Games. I've never seen it. And we started watching it last night, and, to hear, me and Michael were sitting there, we're converting the yen into Canadian dollars. I was like, oh my gosh, how can anyone do that? Like, oh, that would stress the hell out of me. And I'm like, putting up your parents' home, putting up your parents' business. I was like, I'm like, how could you do that? You know what I mean? Like, it truly is it truly blinds you from what you're doing. You know what I mean? So I feel like, maybe you thought that you could accomplish something, and then you come to the realization, like, maybe that's not in my cards. And that's fine. At least it'll give you peace. It's like, that's fine. You know what I mean? But I feel like it's also, maybe it's not the time right now. I feel like a lot of us feel like this tedious energy where it's void of course, where we get up and repeat, get up and repeat. So what fun, flavory things can we bring into our life to change it up a little bit? Going outside, we've been gloomy for, I think, a couple days now, 3 days. So when the sun comes out, it's like, go take advantage of the sun, On the gloomy days, we still got to take advantage. Like, the sun's still there. It's like taking advantage and getting out in the cool air and, maybe doing something that, going for a hike or going for a walk that'll sit there and, just oxygenate your blood and just change your total mindset. We have this enchanter, and I feel like, what we're going through here, I feel like, but I feel like with the enchanter here, it's just like the magician. It's like you have the experience to get through this. For a lot of us with this Ace of Vision, with the swan there, it's just like we sit there and it's like making, like Sonny, Junior said when he was, I think, probably 7 or something, he wanted a sweet, fluffy white doggy. Sonny isn't a fluffy white doggy, but he's a little doggy. You know what I mean? Well, depending. When his hair's trimmed, he looks more blondish white than anything. But it's just like, he sat there and put those words out there to the universe. And it's like, I try to make that happen. I was always on the lookout for a little dog or whatever. And, it just so happened, it just fell into place where, we were looking for someone else. And they saw Sonny and they said no. And I was like, well, are you sure you don't want him? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, do you mind if we take him? And they're like, no, go for it. We got him. And then they wanted him. I'm like, no. We're not playing this game. Like, no, my kids love this dog. I'm not giving up my dog, And they're just like, can you contact them, see if they have another one? So they were breeders. So lucky enough, we were able to find a different dog for them. But, we're very blessed. He's a pain in the butt, but, I couldn't imagine not having him. He's such a cuddle monster. Aren't you? He's sitting there looking at me. He wants me to throw his ball for him. But, exactly what we needed. On the other hand, this could be you asking for help from someone that's toxic. And they're like, do you really want their help? They will help you. But it ain't the kind of help you want or need. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's like your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, your intuition, because they were really showing the yellow of the magician. When you look at traditional tarot cards and you look at the magician, there's this yellow hue behind him. And it's like, follow your intuition. This is when they talk about the swords, the pentacles, the wands, the cups. This is the 4 elements. This is what we possess in our body. And it's like when you get that gut feeling and it's just like, something sounds really appealing. And you're just like, remember what happened last time we got into this kind of situation? It blew up in your face. They called you every nasty name in the book. They did everything to, make this an impossible situation. You know what I mean? And it nothing benefited you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, no. You need to learn your lesson here. It's just like, as appealing as it may be, it's like, you got to listen to your intuition. Love your heart. Love, you know what I mean? I love the living crap out of my heart. It's such a giver. It's such a empathetic nature, I love my heart for that. But at the same time, it's like I got to listen to my head. And it's just like, you can't sit there and fix everybody. You can't help everybody. You know what I mean? Do what you can, and that's all you can do. You know what I mean? And when certain situations come around, it's like, we already did this song and dance. Let's not repeat this song and dance over again. Let's not put ourselves in that situation. And I just sat there and I'm just like, they were just like this. I'm like, nope, I'm good. So we're going to start with the Ace of Vision. The enchanted ally for visions is the swan. Renowned for their grace and beauty, swans are also powerful, strong, fierce, and faithful in love. They mate for life in marriages that may last 20 years. Swans are emotional and expansive creatures calling out in triumph when they rouse their enemy. The swan's gift to you is a tiny enchanted pool in a glance. When the water is still, it becomes a magic mirror. All that you desire is reflected here. And most importantly, so is your own true self. So we've been talking about that for days, true self. So you may be coming into your true self. You know what I mean? I know someone that I feel like anyone that's curious that gets readings possesses, and I feel I truly do believe we all possess this, but I feel like some people are just a little more attuned to it, and I feel like curious about it, and when you peek that curiosity and you peek behind the curtain, and then you delve a little bit more at your own pace, I feel like, you know what I mean, you come your true self. I know someone where it's just like these little things. And I'm just like, that's cool. And I'm like, I definitely feel like you have something. And I'm like, maybe you should get yourself a tarot deck. So now they're dealing with that. And I'm like, the more you sit there and do those and pull cards, like, I know some people that will pull themselves a daily card. What does the day actually encompass that? Me, I have this obsessive behavior, over impulsive behavior. So I don't want to, you know what I mean, get to a point where it's like, if they even tell you that, if you sit there and overdo it, it's not going to make sense. I do it for myself sometimes when things are going chaotic. When I'm not too tired, I'll sit there and I'm like, you know what? Things are a little going mushy mush. Let's see what's going on here. Let's see what cards come out for myself. You know? And it's just like, just be honest with yourself and just let the cards fall. Let them come out. You know? But this person, it's exciting to see because they're seeing orbs, they're seeing spirit, they're sensing spirit, they're seeing more things. The signs have always been there. It's just she's more attuned to those signs now. So it's really exciting to see that, like, this change in her. You know what I mean? So even trusting her intuition, trusting herself, like, I could pull cards for myself authentically, and this is what they're trying to tell me. So sincerity, compassion, spirituality, a kindness, a new way of seeing, a gift of love, a water element. You may find love with a water element. You know what I mean? Um, but that's where I feel like this 10 of challenges comes in. I feel like you've built up this vision of this person, of who they are, and it's not who they are. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's like you owe it to yourself and them not to sit there and waste either of your time anymore. It's time to move forward. It's just, it's, maybe in essence, maybe a theory would be a good partnership, but I feel like they're saying you'll get bored. So it's just like time to move forward. It's nothing against them. It's just, you know what I mean? What you thought was there is not there. What you thought, like who that person was, is not that person. And that's totally fine. That's why you need to take your time getting to know people. You can't sit there and rush, because then it's like, oh, you build up this fantasy in your head and you're just like, oh, sometimes you have a crush, or like you moved on from high school and you had a high school crush and you thought they were going to be all these things, and then you finally date them and you're just like, oh, this is not what I thought it would be. So we have the oldest one. The forest is old and full of stories. The hedgehog child, the rabbit's bride, the sleepless princess, the foolish son, the faithful daughter, the poison apple. So this is the preservation of all stories is entrusted to the old one, memory keeper for the forest. Ask for your story you must need to hear right now. Then add your own tale to the living library of lore. The oldest one reminds us that having a historical perspective is assuring in times of trouble. Having a methodical religious perspective helps us find meaning in our lives. Tales, legends, lore have been handed down from the generation to generation because of their vital part of our shared humanity. So that would be something huge for me, like, how if I had, or maybe she would come to me, who knows, like, maybe I'm leveling up to a point where I can talk to, like, someone I would love to talk to is my grandma Singh, so great grandmother Justine. These people I would love to talk with, and it's just like to see their spirituality, these fierce women in my life, and it's like, how they were and how they carried, conducted themselves, and what things they went through, and where their spirituality came in, like, you know what I mean? It's just like I share those things with people. Like, it's just like Shane passing away was the most testimony of my faith, and I said to God, like, I don't know what to say to you right now, so I'm just gonna be quiet. I have no idea what to say. I would sit there and be like, why did this happen? You know what I mean? And the biggest thing I learned was, like, we can never question why. And obviously with the autopsy reports and the just like, come on, take the blinders off. The lifestyle. It was just like, okay, you know what I mean? The more that the more that I realized he would talk in a cryptic way where it's just like, hey, this one did X, Y, and Z, and it was actually him. You know what I mean? So it's just like, seeing, okay, yeah, the family history, so there was a lot of factors in there. And it's just like, when I question why this happened, it's just like, thinking about the weekend previous, he laid down for a nap and he was so exhausted. And it's like, he could have went to sleep and gently drifted off. That could have been it there, But I feel like the Lord knew that would have broke me. This almost broke me. It really did. It almost really broke me. I was an autopilot for a very long time. Your mind is not a good place to be when you go through those experiences. And it's just like the shadow side, And I feel like it's like, I know it wasn't me. I'm not going to sit there and pretend like I'm stronger than I am. Like, you know what I mean? I felt like a robot at that time. I was just like on autopilot, But I tell people, it's like, you will get through this. You will. You may not understand how the heck how you're functioning and how you're moving and getting through it, because they needed me to get through it. Because I have 2 kids. That's the biggest thing they reminded me. You want to give up? Well, you can't. You have those 2 little boys right there you got to look after. They're not so little boys anymore. Now they're men. My knees are frigged up right now. And I asked them, they're like, what do you need help with, Mom? Because they know that I freaking sat there and I battled through this stuff. I listen to when they speak to me. Mom, I will not feel comfortable if we had someone, like a roommate or someone living in the house. I would not feel comfortable just sleeping in our home. And I listened to that. You know what I mean? Because it's not just me. Like, how Spirit tells us, when you make decisions, it's just not you're affecting. You know what I mean? So I feel like, Spirit is definitely trying to bring things to our attention right now. You're bored. It's like, okay, can we meditate, take a nap? They told us rest and rejuvenation. You know what I mean? So me, I just can't find enough hours in a day. It's just, I feel like a lot of us are going through these changes. You know what I mean? Especially with like this the eclipse energy. I feel like a lot of us are making these changes. And I feel like, I can think of 2 people in particular with relationship wise where, they took the blinders off of one. And it's just like, hey, you know what? They're showing you who they are. They're a user. You know what I mean? So let's end this now before it gets worse. You know what I mean? See your value. And I feel like this is teaching her value. You're worth more than that. You're worth more than this garbage. You know what I mean? They should be helping you out. Why the heck are you helping them out? Like, are you crazy? Like, no. You cannot afford to help them out. One person is very, very mature for their age. Very mature. Very old soul energy. And they're just like, I was reading for them and they brought up a situation. I'm like, I'm not going to say nothing. You know what I mean? I'm just going to leave it alone. People are going to do what they're going to do. But they came to the conclusion what they're doing, they wouldn't want done to them. They're like, I don't feel right. I know who I am. I know I'm tempted. So you know what? Before this turns into something that I'm really going to regret, let me just deal with this situation. And they did. And I applaud them. You know what I mean? I'm like, at least you know who you are. And at least you sat there as a mature person, realizing, you know what? This could easily be the shoe on the other foot. And they made the right decision. And I feel like this is where this growth happens. And this eclipse energy, things have happened, things have changed, and it's showing you who you are. Your resilience. When they were showing the 6 of Wands, what did they say? What was one of the words? 6 of Wands, they said resilience, adaptability. When I say recalibrating, it's like we don't understand what happened. This change happened. Okay, these puzzle pieces, it's like you put together a puzzle and someone came around and they friggin' messed it all up and you got to start all over again. So it's like you're putting, like someone came and just squished all the pieces together. So it's like up in the air kind of stuff. So you're sitting there and you're flattening out. And you keep going. You keep adding more puzzle pieces until it's complete. And then we start another chapter. So maybe some things we were doing, we were sitting there and it's like we start on this path. And Spirit is just like, this is the path we want you to follow. They're showing, I don't remember the name of it. It's from the Energy Oracle cards. I think it's called like the Journey or something like that. And she was going to, like, she had her suitcases were packed. She was heading out on this path, and Spirit was like, "Hey, come over this way." She had a lantern, and she turned over. It's very like the Hermit, and it's like she turned around. The path was lit. They're like, "Come over here." She's going down this path. She's going to this fork in the road, and Spirit's like, "Come over here. Don't go that way no more." Because that sometimes things happen. Look at how many times I've tried to start like businesses. Certain things came into my life. I took it as an opportunity to start something. I wanted to do Jamberry nails. It was like the first in Canada. I'm not going to say anything bad about them, but it's just like, it wasn't what I thought it was. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, babysitting. I didn't think that would turn into anything crazy. It was a job, but it's something it brought a lot of laughter into the home when we needed it. You know what I mean? Cards, definitely. This is my forte. I like to help people. I'm definitely a helper. You know what I mean? But it's just like also the knowledge that you gain from it and everything from people's different situations and stuff. It's just opportunities to grow and expand. So the 10 of challenges. An aged knight sits weeping, his faithful steed at his side. He is racked by despair and defeat. Many long years ago, he had quested in the forest, pursuing the mythical beast who became his life obsession. So we become obsessed with something, and before we know it, it's like, what the hell was it worth? Kind of like the Squid Games. They were obsessed with gambling or whatever. The one guy was stocks. That totally resonated with me. And he lost it all. And it's just like, oh my gosh. He was actually sitting in the tub with all of his clothes on, drinking a beer. I was just like, oh my god, that's crazy. He just felt so defeated. Along the way, he fought bravely with countless other knights, never striking in service to causes of righteous and nobility. But relentless time has claimed him at last. All the fight has left him, and the beast hasn't been seen for a very long time. The old knight's sword and helmet are battered and rusted. His quest is over. Perhaps it was mad to begin with. When the knight appears, take it as a message that there is time to face reality, cut your losses, and decide where to go from here. In a way, it can be a relief that this is as bad as it gets. You don't need to fight anymore or pursue any impossible dream. Yet you get to lay down your sword and walk away. You can't win, but you are also done losing. I feel like in the fact it's just like there's nothing more you could get from this relationship, person, place, or thing. It's like there's this obsession with something, and I feel like it's a relationship. Maybe you're so obsessed with this relationship and it's like you squeezed and they're like wringing out a cloth. It's like you've wringed out everything you could out of this. So it's done. It's done. Leave it alone. It's dry. It's done. Defeat, surrender, ruin, the death of a dream. Give up and move on. And I feel like it's just like sometimes in relationships or, jobs or whatever it is, it's just like sometimes it's just like, it's time to hang it up and be done with it. This is the last time they, backstabbed you or whatever it is, or just like, treating you like garbage. It's just like, the final straw. Sometimes in relationships, it's like, you knew, it should have been over a while ago, but you stay because it's familiar or because of the children, whatever the reason is. Maybe you're just scared to go out on your own. We're talking about monkey barring with relationships, and it's like, so we go to the Channeler, and it's like, we have the experience to be successful. I keep seeing that 6 of Wands, Victor wearing the wreath. They're showing the runway for like an airplane and it's all lit up. It's like, we're showing you the path. You know what I mean? But it's like the double-edged sword here is like asking someone for help. Or they're offering help and it's like, really think about before you take that help. The enchanter observes everything that happens in the forest. Then he influences it, manipulates it, melodies, and brings elements together to create situations he deems beneficial. So he does it so he benefits from it somehow. So you ask him for help. How he's scheming? How can I sit there and benefit from this situation? How can I get something from this? How can I help myself with this? He can converse with everything: birds, beasts, gnomes, elves, though he may pretend to be hard of hearing with the elves. Be aware, though, that he may not choose to give the kind of help you hope for or expect. He has been known to stir things up for those who are trying to take the safer route, the safest route. So I know someone like this. They'll sit there and stir things up for no necessary reason because they want things to be manipulated into their favor. They're trying to curry their favor. It's like, I'm going to sit there and do this, and then they're going to react like this, and then I can sit there and slip in and be like, hey, I'm going to do this. Because this whole thing was conjured up because they wanted that thing. So it's just like, you got to be careful of that stuff. The enchanter is far seeing when it comes to adventures that happen in the forest. What seems unacceptable, terrible some, you may be a part of a longer design that only he can see. Still, you can always learn from him, especially when it comes to using your own powers to its fullest. And that's what I feel like. This person is definitely good when they need you or X, Y, and Z, but it's like it's a double-edged sword. It's like they're good to a point, and then they want something in return. You know what I mean? Like, they'll always come back for something in return. Magic, wisdom, force of will, intention, ability to influence and help, power at your command. You know what I mean? So this is a major message. There's a situation, and it's just like, am I going to learn from the past? They showed me who they were. They told me as much. So it's like, take that knowledge. I'm the type of person that puts that knowledge away for, I keep it at the back of my head. I'm like, okay, you told me this. I'm not going to comment on it. I'm not going to say nothing to it about it, But it's like, put it in your vault, for later. So when a situation comes up and that knowledge comes back out, it's like, that's why they were warning you. They're like, this is why. They're showing you who they truly are. You take it who it is, and you take that to the bank. That's your intuition. They're like, there's a reason why that sticks out to you when they're saying these words. Because they're telling you exactly who they are, or who they've done it to someone else. And it's like, don't you think they'll do it to you? Or they've done it to you in the past, and it's like, you remember this in the future. When they sit there and they come back around and they want to scheme and scam and they want to get something from you, you remember this. Because they're going to pretend like it never happened. Type of people, oh, I forgot. It's like, okay, you know what? Well, I forgot too. You got to play their game. You forget, I forgot. Distance yourself. Find your own peace. I feel like this is what this eclipse is about. It's like, people are trying to hide things. That's why they always say about the full moon. You can't hide the truth in the full moon, the light of the moon. Nothing it can be hidden. So it's just like, the truth will come out, the truth will prevail. But it's like some things, little tidbits, it's like for you to keep in the back of your mind, because it's just like, that will be useful in the future. That will be useful to you when, something comes around and it's tempting. And Spirit's like, remember this? And you're just like, oh, right. They're not who they're claiming to be, Keep it in the back of your mind. So I hope you guys enjoyed these daily tarot cards for Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. May the universe bless you good. Just be kind with yourself in this transitional energy. Let things kind of settle. Things have changed. Let them settle. And you're going to sit there and you're going to flatten all these, like that puzzle. It's like someone sat there, just squished it all together. We're gently laying it flat again. And we're going to start putting things in place. We're going to start putting the puzzle pieces in place. So that way we can move forward. So I hope you guys enjoyed these daily tarot cards. May the universe bless you good. We'll see you for the next one. Bye.